The moon hung low over the desert city, its pale light filtering through the countless glass domes above, casting a fragmented glow that fractured the streets below into kaleidoscopic shards of shadow and light. Beneath that fragile mosaic, I found myself once again pacing the narrow confines of a hidden alcove, the cool touch of glass shards embedded in the walls reflecting my restless thoughts. Trust. The word tasted bitter on my tongue, a poison more potent than any venom I'd encountered in the city's darkest corners. Nail had become an anchor-steady, reliable, even warm at times, but the past clung stubbornly to him like dust to the desert winds. His loyalties were a maze in themselves, twisting and turning, impossible to map. Liora was a different enigma altogether, her ethereal presence unsettling yet magnetic, like the labyrinth itself, beautiful, dangerous, and unknowable. I fingered the worn edge of a small mirror pendant hidden beneath my tunic, its surface catching the flickering light. The labyrinth whispered always, its murmurs threading through the glass like veins of quicksilver. Sometimes I thought it spoke only to me. Other times I wondered if it listened back. Neil's footsteps echoed softly behind me. "You've been distant," he said quietly, voice carrying the weight of unspoken fears. "The labyrinth's changing, and so are we." I didn't turn. "Change isn't always good," I replied, voice low, "especially when it comes from people I don't fully understand." He sighed, his silhouette framed against the shifting reflections of the domes. "You're not the only one with secrets, Sira." The air was thick with unspoken truths. I wanted to ask him what he meant, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I glanced toward the labyrinth's entrance, a dark maw beneath the city's glittering surface, promising answers and danger in equal measure. Meanwhile, far above in the gilded halls of power, the city's leaders wove their own webs. Cloaked figures gathered in whispered councils, their voices low and sharp as fractured glass. They spoke of the labyrinth not as a mystery to be solved, but as a weapon to be wielded, a tool to bend fate, to seize control over the city's fragile future. It was a game of shadows and mirrors, and I was caught somewhere in the middle, unsure whether I was the pawn or the player. A sudden movement caught my eye. Liora emerged from the swirling mists of glass shards, her form shimmering with an otherworldly light. Her eyes, calm and deep, met mine with an inscrutable expression. "The labyrinth understands you," she said softly, "but it also tests you, tests me." I echoed, heart pounding. "Every choice you make fractures the path ahead," she replied, voice as fluid as the shifting domes above. "Trust is a fragile thing, Sira, but necessary." Her words hung in the air like a challenge. Could I let go of my guarded walls? Could I lean on the very allies I feared might betray me? Later, in the dim light of the labyrinth's twisting corridors, Nail confided in me, his voice trembling with a vulnerability I had rarely seen. "I'm not sure where my loyalties truly lie," he admitted, "but I want to stand with you." His honesty was a crack in the armor of mistrust I'd built. Yet the labyrinth's whispers grew louder, warning of fractures that could tear us apart. The city's fate and mine seemed tethered to the fragile bonds between us. As the glass domes above shifted with the moon's slow dance, so too did the alliances below, fragile and ever-changing. In this maze of light and shadow, I had to decide whether to trust or to stand alone, and whether that choice could reshape the destiny whispered in the glass. The labyrinth waited, alive and watching, as I took my next step into the unknown. The night deepened, and with it, the city's secrets grew sharper, more urgent. I slipped through the streets, the glass beneath my feet humming softly, a subtle vibration that echoed the tension coiling inside me. Each step was measured, every breath held tight against the cacophony of shifting voices, some real, some illusion. In the market district, Mara's stall was a beacon of cautious light. The merchant's eyes flickered when she saw me, a mixture of concern and calculation. Tools for the maze, she whispered, sliding a small vial of shimmering dust across the table. Use these wisely. The labyrinth doesn't forgive mistakes. I nodded, pocketing the dust. Every resource mattered. Every advantage could mean the difference between survival and becoming another lost whisper in the glass. But the true test came soon enough. In one of the labyrinth's mirrored halls, Nail and I found ourselves cornered by shadowy glass construct silent sentinels sent by the Glassmaster, their edges sharp and gleaming like frozen lightning. The air crackled with tension as we moved in tandem my stealth, his strength a fragile dance against the unyielding tide of fate. We can't keep running, I muttered, heart pounding. Neil's jaw clenched. Then we fight. The clash was swift, shards singing through the air, reflections fracturing and reforming with every strike. Yet even as we fought, the labyrinth shifted beneath our feet, corridors realigning like the turning pages of a story rewritten in glass. In the aftermath, breathless and bruised, I realized that the fractures between us mirrored those within the city itself. Loyalties splintered, alliances fragile, destinies uncertain. And through it all, the labyrinth whispered, its voice a haunting melody of dread and defiant hope. Could I trust the whispers? Could I trust those who walked beside me? Or was I destined to walk alone, lost forever in the shifting glass? The answer lay just beyond the next turn, waiting to be uncovered. As the first light of dawn began to bleed through the domes, I steeled myself. The labyrinth was watching. And so was I. The air beneath the glass domes had a brittle chill that seeped through the layers of fabric wrapped tightly around my frame. Moonlight fractured like scattered shards across the shifting glass ceiling above, casting kaleidoscopic patterns that danced and shimmered with every subtle movement. I sat across from Nail in the alcove, a narrow hollow carved from ancient stone and veiled in shadows. The city above hummed faintly, a distant murmur of life contained within fragile walls. But here, beneath the surface, the labyrinth's presence pressed in, whispering secrets that tangled around my thoughts. Neil's eyes, usually steady and pragmatic, flickered with something raw and unguarded as he cleared his throat. "There's something I need to tell you," he began, voice low, almost swallowed by the labyrinth's murmurs. I studied him carefully, every line on his weathered face carved by years of duty and regret. Before I became what I am now, before I chose this path, I served another. His gaze dropped, darkening with the weight of confession. The Glassmaster. A cold ripple spread through me. The name itself was like a blade etched in my memory, a shadow looming over every step I'd taken since I stumbled into this living maze. I'd heard whispers from others, tales of his fractured glass armor, his cold obsession with control and destiny, but to hear it from Nail, my closest ally, was a fracture in itself. "You served him." My voice was barely a whisper, laced with disbelief and something sharper, betrayal. Nail nodded, swallowing hard. "I was bound by duty, but also by fear. The Glassmaster's reach is long, and his influence cuts deep. I wanted to protect you. And the city. That's why I left, why I came to you." His eyes searched mine, seeking understanding, forgiveness, maybe even trust. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to trust the man who had saved me more times than I could count, who had stood by me in a labyrinth's darkest turns. But the labyrinth itself seemed to pulse with tension, its whispers growing urgent, as if sensing the fracture between us. The glass walls around us shimmered faintly, reflecting fractured images of our faces, distorted and overlapping like shards of a broken mirror. Suddenly, a sharp click echoed through the alcove. The labyrinth shifted. Glass shards, barely visible at first, sprang from the walls and floor, glinting deadly in the moonlight. Instinct took over. I grabbed Neil's arm, yanking him back just as the first shard sliced through where he'd been standing moments before. "Move," I hissed. We darted through the twisting corridors, the maze rearranging itself with cruel precision. The shards followed, slicing through the air with lethal intent. We moved as one, our breaths ragged, muscles taut with adrenaline. Every step we took was a gamble, every turn a test of our fragile alliance. At last, we burst into a wider chamber bathed in cold moonlight filtering through the dome above. I collapsed against the glass wall, heart pounding, my reflection fractured and multiplied across the shimmering surface. The labyrinth's illusions danced in my eyes, memories, prophecies, half-truths, all blurring together. Nail leaned beside me, breathing heavily. "I swear, Sira," he said, voice steady despite the chaos, "I'm with you. This ends with us." But even as he spoke, I felt the labyrinth's whispers curl around my mind, threading through my doubts. The past, the present, the future, all intertwined in the shifting glass. Could I truly trust him? Could I trust anyone in this maze of illusion and destiny? The moon shifted, and with it, the domes above us began to reshape, subtle, inevitable. The labyrinth was changing again, its voice rising in a crescendo of whispered secrets and warnings. I pushed myself up, eyes sharp despite the storm inside. "We keep moving," I said, voice firm. "But we do it on our terms." Nail nodded, and together we stepped deeper into the maze, where shadows stretched long, and the line between friend and foe blurred like glass in the moonlight. The labyrinth was alive, and so was its prophecy, but maybe, just maybe, it wasn't set in stone. I tightened my grip on the worn glass pendant at my throat, a talisman of fragile hope. Ahead lay the unknown, but also the chance to rewrite the whispers in the glass. And as the moon cast its new shape across the city, I vowed to follow that chance, no matter the cost. The narrow alley leading to Mara's shop was a fracture in the city's gleaming facade, a place where shadows clung stubbornly beneath the ever-shifting glass domes. Sira's footsteps echoed softly on the cracked cobblestones, the faint clink of trinkets in her pocket, a reminder of the precarious balance she maintained between survival and discovery. The air was thick with the scent of heated sand and distant spices, a subtle perfume that mingled with the faint metallic tang of glass dust. Glancing up, she saw the domes above pulse gently with the moon's silver light, their geometric shapes shifting as if breathing in time with the city's restless heart. Mara's shop was tucked between two larger buildings, its facade marked by an ornate sign, a delicate hand holding a shard of glass that shimmered under the neon glow. The door creaked open before Sira could knock, revealing a dim interior filled with the soft, persistent glow of glass artifacts. Shelves lined the walls, groaning under the weight of countless delicate sculptures, lenses, and intricate tools that gleamed with ethereal colors. The air hummed faintly, alive with the secrets trapped inside each piece. Mara herself emerged from the shadows, her sharp eyes flickering like fractured glass, reflecting the shifting light around her. Auburn hair was pulled back tightly, strands woven with fine threads that caught the light and scattered it in prismatic patterns. Layers of robes draped her frame, woven with shimmering glass fibers that whispered against one another as she moved. "You're late." Mara's voice was low, edged with a wary sharpness. "The night isn't forgiving to those who hesitate." Sira's lips curved into a half smile, her dark eyes steady. "The city's changes wait for no one." "Neither do I," Mara nodded, motioning her inside. "Follow me. There's something you'll want to see." The shop's interior was a labyrinth in itself, twisting aisles between shelves that sparkled like stars caught in amber. Mara led Sira to a small counter where several glass objects lay carefully arranged. There were lenses, thin and nearly invisible, that shimmered with shifting hues, small prisms that fractured light into impossible patterns, and delicate spheres that seemed to hold tiny galaxies within their crystal depths. These Mara began, lifting a pair of translucent lenses, are crafted from the rarest desert sands, infused with the essence of the shifting domes themselves. Look through them, and the illusions of the labyrinth lose their grip. You'll see the pathways hidden beneath the surface, the traps concealed in shadows. Cira took the lenses, feeling the cool, smooth weight in her hands. When she peered through, the world around her shifted subtly. The walls pulsed with hidden veins of light. Faint outlines of passages revealed themselves, where before there was only glass and shadow. It was as if the labyrinth's breath slowed, its secrets momentarily laid bare. But such clarity comes at a cost, Mara warned, her eyes narrowing. The more you pierce the veil, the more you attract those who want to keep it intact. The Glassmaster's reach is long, and his eyes are everywhere. Cira's jaw tightened. I'm not here to bow to his will. Good, Mara said softly, because these tools won't save you from everything. You'll need more than glass to survive. Their uneasy partnership felt like a fragile thread woven through the city's shifting power dynamics. Mara, ever cautious, measured her words and her trust. Cira, despite her guarded nature, sensed an ally in this merchant of secrets, someone who understood the labyrinth's dangerous allure. As the exchange concluded, Cira tucked the lenses and small glass prisms carefully into the folds of her cloak. Outside, the city awaited, its glass domes alive with the moon's gentle pulse. Fractured shadows danced along the streets, rippling with the promise of revelation and peril intertwined. A sudden movement caught her eye, a figure lurking in a nearby alley, cloaked in darkness, yet unmistakably watching. The subtle tension in Cira's chest flared. The labyrinth's dangers were never far behind, and every choice she made echoed through its shifting corridors. Steeling herself, Cira vanished into the night. The weight of the glass artifacts, a steady reminder that the maze was changing, and with it, the fragile hope of rewriting the whispered destinies. As she melted into the glittering streets beneath the domes, the city itself seemed to breathe with possibility, its translucent walls both a prison and a promise. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, Cira held a glimmer, small, fragile, but fiercely alive, that she might yet turn the labyrinth's illusions to her favor. And somewhere deep beneath the city, the whispers stirred, waiting to see what choices she would make next. The moon hung low and swollen over the desert city, casting its pale silver light through the transparent domes that shielded us from the harsh sands beyond. Tonight, the glass domes shimmered with an almost liquid quality, their surfaces rippling, subtly like waves frozen in time. The city beneath was alive in ways I had never fully grasped until now. As I slipped through the narrow alleys and hidden passages beneath the glittering streets, the familiar sensation of shifting glass surrounded me once again, only this time it was more frenetic, more unpredictable, as if the labyrinth itself was waking, responding to the moon's new phase with restless energy. I pressed my palm against the cool surface of a glass wall, its texture undulating beneath my fingers. The whispers began then, faint but unmistakable, threading through the air like silk threads of sound. The path fractures. The fate bends. They murmured, voices so soft I almost doubted they were real. My breath caught, but I forced myself to listen, to decipher the cryptic phrases woven into the labyrinth song. Each syllable was a puzzle, each echo a warning. Ahead, the corridor twisted sharply, the walls folding in like the pages of a book closing on a secret. I hesitated, eyes darting to the reflections cast by the glass. My own image splintered into countless shards, each fragment showing a different version of me, a thief, a girl haunted by loss, a survivor defying a prophecy. The illusions warped the space, disorienting my senses. I closed my eyes for a heartbeat and then moved forward, trusting only my instincts. Suddenly, the ground beneath me shifted. The smooth glass floor rippled like molten silver, then fractured into glittering shards that rose like jagged teeth. I leapt back just in time, heart hammering as the trap snapped shut behind me with a sharp chime. The labyrinth was alive, dangerous, and it was testing me. From the shadows emerged figures that seemed woven from glass themselves, limbs sharp and angular, faces obscured by reflective masks. They moved silently, their footsteps whispering like falling leaves on the glass floor. My pulse quickened. I crouched low, pressing myself against a wall as the pursuers closed in, their forms shifting with the labyrinth's erratic pulse. I could feel the maze's heartbeat through the floor, a rhythm both alien and familiar. A sudden voice, low and urgent, broke through the tension. "Sira, over here." Neil's figure materialized from a side passage, his cloak blending with the shadows, but his eyes steady and warm. I scrambled toward him, relief and suspicion warring inside me. Trust was a fragile thing in this place, but tonight I needed all eyes more than ever. "The corridors are changing faster," I whispered, scanning the twisting passages. "The moon's new shape, it's speeding the shifts. We have to move before the labyrinth traps us completely." Nail nodded grimly, pulling a small glass shard from a hidden pocket and examining its shifting surface. "These passages aren't just glass, they're memories, secrets. The labyrinth's trying to tell us something, but it's hard to listen when it's rearranging itself constantly." Together, we navigated the maze's shifting heart, each step a gamble. The walls bent and fractured like waves caught in a storm, reflections and shadows dancing in chaotic patterns. Whispers swirled, sometimes soothing, sometimes menacing. I clutched the shard tightly, letting its cold surface ground me as I pieced together fragments of prophecy and truth. But the Glassmaster was never far behind. His presence lurked in every fractured reflection, every shadow that flickered at the edge of my vision. The traps grew deadlier, the corridors more labyrinthine. Yet, beneath the fear and confusion, a stubborn flame of defiance burned within me. I was not merely a pawn in this glass game. I was a player, and I would rewrite the rules. The moon's light shifted again, bathing the maze in an eerie glow as the corridors twisted into new shapes. Ahead, a narrow passage opened, shimmering with possibility and peril. I glanced at Nail, his steady gaze giving me the courage to step forward. "We keep moving," I said, voice steady despite the chaos around us. "The labyrinth wants to break us, but it doesn't know who it's dealing with." As we vanished into the shifting glass, the whispers rose to a crescendo prophecies, tangled with promises, illusions blending with reality. The maze was alive, and so was I, caught between dread and determination in a dance as fragile and beautiful as the city's shimmering domes above. But the night was far from over, and the labyrinth's secrets were still waiting to be unraveled. The air in the labyrinth was thick with tension, the usual whispers now a cacophony of warning and accusation. I pressed my back against the icy surface of a glass wall, the cold biting through my worn clothes, and tried to steady my shaking hands. The faint glow of fractured moonlight filtered through the domes above, casting endless shards of reflected light that seemed to dance mockingly around me. Neil's face haunted my thoughts, his steady presence, his quiet warmth, the loyalty I thought was unbreakable. But now, standing in a hidden chamber veiled by shifting glass, I saw the truth. His eyes, once a refuge, flickered with something else: doubt, regret, and an impossible allegiance. Why? My voice was barely a whisper, trembling with a betrayal that cut deeper than any blade. Nail's gaze dropped, his jaw tightening. "I never wanted to hurt you, Sira, but the Glassmaster's hold, it's stronger than you realize." He promised order in this chaos, a future for the city, something I had to believe in. Betrayal tasted bitter, a venom that seeped into every corner of my being. I struggled to reconcile the man who had shared whispered plans beneath the moonlit domes with the man who stood before me, veiled in shadows and half-truths. Before I could respond, the labyrinth seemed to shudder, the glass walls rippling like liquid under the pressure of unseen forces. A chilling voice echoed, cold and commanding, The Glassmaster's presence felt even without his form. Sira, it hissed through the maze. The prophecy is inexorable. Your path ends as foretold. Heart hammering, I sprinted through the twisting corridors, shards of light splintering with each hurried step. Shadowy constructs of glass coalesced from the wall's silent hunters dispatched to claim me. Their edges glinted dangerously, reflecting my terror as I ducked and weaved, clutching a shard of mirror I'd taken from Mara's shop. I could hear Neil's footsteps behind me, hesitating but pursued nonetheless. The betrayal burned anew with every breath I took, fueling a desperate resolve. I was not ready to surrender to the fate the labyrinth whispered. Not yet. In a narrow alcove, I paused, pressing my palm against a shattered mirror. The fractured reflection staring back was a mosaic of fear, sorrow, and defiance. The prophecy had cast a long shadow over my life, but I could feel the fragile threads of hope weaving through the cracks. The moon shifted beyond the glass domes, the city itself reshaping in response. I knew the labyrinth was watching, waiting to see if I would break or bend. Steeling myself, I stepped out into the open beneath the silver crescent, eyes burning with newfound fire. The cycle of whispered destinies ends here. I would carve a new path, not one dictated by shadow or glass, but by choice. The maze was alive, but so was I, and the night was far from over. The air was thick with the scent of dust and shattered light as I stepped cautiously through the corridor where the glass around me trembled. It was as if the labyrinth itself was breathing, sighing, fracturing under the weight of truths too long hidden. The whispers that had pursued me since my first descent into this living maze had faded into a tense silence, leaving only the distant echo of my own footsteps and the fragile shimmer of moonlight fractured across the broken panes. I reached out, fingers grazing the jagged edges of a pane that split apart like a frozen wave, and felt the cold bite of reality seeping in. The illusions were breaking apart. Beside me, Neil's breath hitched, his eyes wide as he crouched before a translucent wall etched with intricate markings. "Look at this," he murmured, voice low but urgent. The glass was ancient, its surface glowing faintly with the soft blue of moonlight filtered through centuries. The etchings told a story of the city's birth. The glass domes forged from a forgotten magic, intertwined with the desert sands and the phases of the moon. It was a prophecy, a warning, and a promise all at once. This changes everything," Neil said, tracing a finger along the lines that pulsed like veins beneath the surface. I swallowed the knot of disbelief tightening in my throat. For so long, I had believed the labyrinth's whispers were a curse, an inescapable fate carved in glass and shadow. But now, faced with these fragments of history, I saw the fragile dance of light and shadow, transparency and opacity, how the city's past and future were entwined like threads within a fractured mirror. The prophecy wasn't a sentence, it was a challenge. Liora's presence flickered beside me then, her form shifting like a wisp of smoke caught in the moonlight. Her translucent skin reflected the labyrinth's shifting glass, her silvery robes flowing without wind. "The labyrinth is neither prisoner nor jailer," she said softly, voice a haunting melody that seemed to ripple through the air. "It is the balance, the choice between what is and what might be. Destiny is not a chain but a path, ever changing beneath your feet." Her words echoed in my mind as I stared into the hall of mirrors she called home. Each reflection fractured and reassembled, illusions melting away to reveal glimpses of possible futures. It was dizzying, unsettling. Trust was a fragile thing here, as fragile as the glass that surrounded us. Yet in that moment, something uncoiled inside me, a defiant hope twisting free from the dread that had gripped my heart for so long. With trembling hands, I traced the glowing lines of a fractured glass map that lay spread across the floor. The city was etched in fine detail, its domes and streets alive with shifting tides of light and shadow. As I followed the lines, the story unfolded a secret history of sacrifice, loss, and the power to reshape fate. The labyrinth was no mere prison. It was a key that could unlock the future, if only I dared to turn it. Neil's steady presence at my side, Alira's enigmatic guidance, and the truth carved into the glass beneath us formed a fragile alliance of hope. I realized then that the path ahead would not be easy. The Glassmaster's shadow still loomed, cold and unyielding. But armed with these fragments of truth, I was no longer just a thief running from a whispered death. I was a seeker of light in the shifting darkness, a breaker of cycles, and perhaps, just perhaps, a maker of new destinies. The labyrinth breathed around us, alive with possibility and peril. And as the first shards of dawn pierced the glass dome above, I stepped forward into the unknown, into the story yet unwritten. But the question lingered, sharp as shattered glass. How far was I willing to go to rewrite the fate carved in the heart of this fragile city? The path was mine to choose,